So what was little Meg like growing up?
A little reckless. Definitely like sought after adrenaline a lot, I think, which got me into some trouble. But also I had 3 younger sisters, so I was the oldest child. So also like very much like reckless, but also protective of them. And like mother qualities, I think, were like instilled at a young age for having three little kids. I mean, 3 younger sisters, 3 little kids, but around all the time. So yeah, definitely self-conscious, kind of like later years, like teen years. You know, my dad is always really outdoorsy, so I spent a lot of, thank goodness, like still spend a lot of time outside. Got my like hiking hobbies from him and biking and all that, but didn't always feel like I fit in really until college, and as many people do. And then and then got more confident in my own skin, comfortable, and kind of started going to therapy too. That was helpful. And yeah, just started working on myself a lot when I got older and caring more about school. Yeah. So.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up kind of all over New Jersey. We moved a lot, but landed for most of middle school and high school in Basking Ridge.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I used to work in Basking Ridge.
Oh, did you?
Verizon headquarters. How you guys doing? Good. Thanks.
My mom works there.
Oh, get out!
Yeah.
I don't think you may have never shared that with me. Maybe.
Probably not.
Yeah, there was no reason to until this moment. So we're doing straight and then left?
Left across and then there's a park right over there. So you're doing engineering for Verizon?
That's right.
Oh,
that's
cool.
right. Yep. And a little bit of like marketing?
Yeah, first time was probably like in high school, but didn't have the impact on me that it did many years later, where I felt like I took like what a real yoga class was, so there's more focus on the spirit and the body, not just sole focus on the body.
Right.
And probably the first-ish and most impactful yoga class, probably still to this day, of my life was after I graduated from college. My ex-boyfriend and I broke up, and I was having like a challenging summer, and living with my parents. And my mom was like, "Let me take you to this yoga class. This girl I went to high school, her name's Sean Korn. She's teaching a class at this animal sanctuary in somewhere in New Jersey, I don't remember where." Anyway, we went together, and I had also preface this by saying I also was sustaining a lot of injuries from an accident I had gotten into prior to that. So had a lot of like physical ramifications, to say the least, and imbalances. So, you know, anyway, my mom told me to go, and her plug was like, "There's vegan food there." You know, there's like, because I was a vegetarian at the time. So we went together, and I just spent most of the class next to my mom, like for no reason other than what the instructor was saying, just to my own knowledge, crying, and like really moved by the whole experience. And that day, my mom's other friend from high school was there, and she ended up being my first yoga teacher. They own a studio in Montclair, and they both came up to me after the class. There was like, I don't know, 50 something people there that took the class, and they both came up to me and said, "You know, your mom told us about your accident. We really think you should consider coming to our teacher training." And I was like, "What? I just, you know, I don't do yoga regularly. Like, I just graduated college, and I have had a part-time job working at touch my mic, an environmental organization, and I was just kind of like, that's not really where I'm at right now." And they were like, "Well, we think that it would," actually her exact words were, "It will change your life. Whether you become a teacher or not, it will change your life, and it will help you with your injuries." And so we went back and forth about it for like 3 months. My mom said, "If you do it, I'll do it with you," even though it was like a haul from Basking Ridge to Montclair. And we were kind of like, it was like the week before the training was supposed to start in October. That class was around June or something. And I just was like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And so we did it. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And now I don't know how many years ago that was, 2015.
Hmm.
What's that math?
I'm not a math guy.
No, me neither.
No, just kidding. Well, do you know I'm a math tutor or no?
Are you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What's
So
that math?
The joke is 8 years?
8 years, yeah. So
Well,
that was
8 point something.
oh, 8 point something.
yeah.
So it was 8 point something years ago.
Okay.
And yeah, just the progression of being a full-time yoga teacher was just a natural unfolding. So I was working, like I said, when we started the training at about 30-something hours a week at a nonprofit organization, and I was working at my family's restaurant, which is an Italian restaurant in Florham Park, Playas Brick Oven. I was working there. And then when the training ended, I was like, you know, shadowing a couple teachers at different studios. That also happened kind of naturally. I was just asked. Someone found out, oh, Meg just finished yoga teacher training. Why don't you come here, check out this space? And then, you know, picking up more classes and more classes. Again, like sort of this, which was so beautiful. Like this is a huge lesson I learned when I started teaching, was that like when you're open, just, you know, not stressed about what the next job is or what the next thing is or what you're, you know, when you have the privilege of that, right? When you're not under the pressure of finances. And at the time I was living with my parents, so that wasn't a huge financial stress until student loans kicked in.
Yeah.
But when you have that privilege, the ability to stay open then and not in fear of like what's the next best thing, or how am I defining myself, or what's my passion, or but just like, okay, you know, this is where I'm supposed to be, and trusting that, sort of having faith, right, is everything. So like because of that, I don't want to say things fell into my lap, but I was really willing to take a risk to change. Like, okay, this is not just knowing kind of like, okay, it's time to leave this and just you know, jump into yoga full throttle. Or here's another teaching opportunity. I'm just going to say yes and yes and yes until at that point, or a couple years later, I was teaching 25 classes a week. Driving all over New Jersey to teach them.
Is that around how many are you teaching currently?
No.
Okay, that was
that was pre-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, so COVID happened, and then all the studios shut down. Everyone went on Zoom. And I was probably teaching during COVID like 17 classes a week, which was a lot, because not a lot for me because it was all at home. It was fun actually, but it was a lot compared to other instructors I know, because I know like a lot of studios just like rip down their schedule and we're like, we don't know when we're coming back.
Gotcha.
So it's very lucky to be teaching at 5 different studios that were willing to keep me on at like a pretty big capacity during the pandemic, and teach from my attic here in Somerville, which was fun with the temperature changes, and I just kind of like dealt with either being really hot or freezing cold.
Hot yoga.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the pandemic hit, and then not too long after I got married and had a baby, and so now I'm teaching like, because I'm, aside from the teacher trainings and my classes during the week, I'm Maple's pretty much full-time parent. So I'm teaching probably 9 classes, I think right now, 9 hours a week, and different studios, and then the teacher trainings.
People as well, how to teach.
Yeah, exactly.
As you mentioned. So tell me a little bit about these old ancient texts
that you were
talking about before we started recording.
So the Yoga Sutras are one of the oldest written yoga texts. There's others. And for centuries, nobody really knows like who wrote the Yoga Sutras, who originally put it down on paper, but it's believed to be Sri Patanjali, who's this guy that also nobody knows anything about. It's like some people called him like a doctor, philosopher, some people called him a lawyer. Anyway, he's allegedly the first person that put it down on paper. But prior to him, it was just like passed down word of mouth, student teacher to student teacher, primarily in India. And so then after he put it down on paper, it's been translated like hundreds of times, you know, in different languages, and also by different spiritual teachers. And so in my first yoga training, that after that, you know, moving class I had 8 and change years ago, 8 point something years ago, I was introduced to the Yoga Sutras for the first time in my life, and as Lauren said, it did absolutely change my life. And the texts are really deep, can be really heady, but under the right teachers, which I've had, are really just make sense, right? They don't claim to be religious, but they also help if you are religious, like enhance your religion, and as opposed to argue or contradict. And you could honestly study one single sutra, which is like, you know, sutra is a word that means thread, so they're like almost like a big, you know, tapestry. Everything's intertwined and interrelated.
Yeah.
And you could study one sutra your entire life. Apparently, Mahatma Gandhi did just that. He studied one sutra, and the sutra was ahimsa, which is nonviolence. And so, like, you could really just read the first sutra, which says the time for yoga is now, and read nothing else and learn so much. So, and now I teach. So when we do the trainings, I do the trainings with my partner. Her name is MJ Turnbull. She's an amazing teacher and has taught me so much. And she was another one of those things where she asked me, after like 4 years of teaching, would you like to do a teacher training with me? I think you'd be great. There was 4 of us originally in this group. Now it's just the 2 of us. And yeah, I was just like, you know, comparing myself to my own teachers, who are seemingly, you know, a lot wiser than me. And let's go this way. Sure. And again, like, trusted that I was being asked to do this because it was the right time, and went and did the training with her. Thank goodness, again, because it's just been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And my role in the training now, you know, we meet with the group of students who are being trained to be yoga teachers for a basic 200-hour training. And we meet together and we really dive into the poses, and that's sort of an understatement. We do a lot of work, but she takes on all the anatomy. And my role really has been taking on all the philosophy. So I do that alone now, which I love. And we have like the Sunday mornings together in the trainings, and we sit and dig into the Yoga Sutras. And then we just taught a 300-hour training, which is an advanced version, or an advanced yoga teacher training. Not every yoga teacher goes on and gets to 300, but a lot of people do. Okay. And this year was the first year of our 300. We had 11 graduates, and it was so wonderful. It was so wonderful, and we got to go even deeper into the sutras. And then we also brought in another book that I chose to work with and kind of integrate and overlap the Yoga Sutras, which is called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Have you heard that?
Say it again.
A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle.
I don't think I have.
Wonderful.
Really good book.
Yeah.
Good read. Okay.
And so we can cross here.
Sure.
And so, yeah, the teacher trainings are probably what I look forward to the most. I love teaching class, but the teacher trainings have become like the highlight, I think, of my year. So it's hard, I think, now with a baby, because then when I'm teaching the teacher trainings, my husband's back at home with my daughter, and he works full time, and he's an electrician. It's a lot on his body, so then for him to be with her Friday, Saturday, and Sunday every other weekend from September to spring is a lot. So
sacrifice.
Yeah, it's been an interesting shift in our relationship. Obviously, having a child is a huge shift, but then needing more from each other, and requiring more of each other's schedules. Whereas before it was like, bye, going to teacher training, see you on Sunday. Yep. So yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so for anyone that's watching this that either has never done, well, let's just say that's never done or tried yoga before.
Sure.
It's like, what is your pitch to someone to say, like, you should try yoga because it can do this for you?
Okay. Yoga is for every body, right? And I hear a lot because, not all of the people in my circle, my friends and family, they're not all yogis, So I hear a lot of, in that circle, like, oh, I could never do yoga, I can't touch my toes, which is malarkey. Your flexibility is not contingent on your ability to do yoga. So yoga is really about balance. And what you're looking for is balance between flexibility and strength. And of course then, mind, body, and spirit, mentally and emotionally as well. So when you come to a yoga class, I think really like putting down the necessity to be good at it same as meditation, right? I feel like a lot of people get discouraged from meditation because they sit down for meditation and they're like, oh, I'm not good at this. My mind is just going on and on for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, and I can't do this. But probably the biggest words of wisdom I've ever been given about meditation is like, meditation is not built to be easy. It's like the mental, muscular flex that you are working on. It's like going to the mental gym. And what your work is, very simply, it's not to empty your mind. It is to redirect your thoughts for whatever given time you've decided to meditate for, in whatever, you know, capacity. Maybe it's a walking meditation or I don't know, whatever. But it's to redirect your thoughts to the task at hand. And in meditation, that's your breath. And so yoga is like a moving meditation, and your attention is being continuously, repetitively drawn back to the breath and the body, right? The breath and the body. And if you can do that for any semblance of an hour, like even if it's just like 10 minutes of that whole hour, then you've been successful, then you've done yoga. Your ability to like be in a perfect warrior pose or touch your toes or have insanely open hamstrings is totally irrelevant. The goal is balance. And so, you know, yoga is really sort of, I just can't say enough about it, obviously, because it's all I do anymore. But it's, I don't want to say tricky, but I guess a little sneaky in the fact that like a lot of people come to yoga because they're injured, which was the way I came to yoga in a way, or because they want to lose weight, or because someone told them somewhere that like this would help keep, you know, calm them down, or they were dragged there by their spouse, or you know, something or other. And what they end up sort of receiving, if they're willing to stay and keep coming, even if in the beginning, like it was for me, is really hard, challenging, is that, okay, this was maybe started about something else, but now it's about everything. And now it's really the integration of balancing on the mat, but ultimately to take what I'm learning on the mat into my life. So like,
That's awesome. Okay, I love that. And that was probably the hardest, you know, straight or left?
Left.
That was probably the hardest thing for me when I first started, when I was at Verizon. I used to do it pretty consistently. I remember either the first or one of the first times was watching the instructor and realizing that I was so far from what she was able to do. And that was a distraction on the first time. Learned exactly what you just shared and how important that is to not compare and just focus on yourself. And,
exactly. That's something that bums me out a little bit sometimes in yoga, is that maybe inadvertently as teachers we can teach in a way that's like, look what I can do. Instead of like, let's look at this posture from 5 different ways. So like I've started in the past few years teaching in a way that my partner and I, MJ, have like deemed it's like a ladder system. Like here's a pose, like, let's think, any yoga pose. I don't know. So here's a position that we're starting in, and you can start, let's all start in the same position, put your knee down. And then I will say, stay here, or, you know, lift your knee up off the ground, stay here, or take a side lean, stay here, or, so that my language is my biggest tool to never make anyone, ideally in the class, feel like if they're staying, they're in the weaker version of this pose, because it's not true. They're in the perfect place that their body can handle at this moment in time. And that, like you said, is honoring their body, and can be just as, and is for them in that moment, just as challenging, fruitful, and like capable of giving them, you know, the space and the balance, like I said, that we're looking for in the body, right? So like, so when we talk about like advanced yoga classes, I don't even like that word, because it's a turn off to a lot of people who are either new to yoga or who feel like, well, you know, I've been doing yoga for years, but I'm not doing anything advanced in relationship to what I'm seeing on the cover of Yoga Journal or this or that. It's not, like you said, like a really welcoming foundation. So like I really try and teach what I would call like an open level class, meaning anyone from like first time they've ever stepped into a yoga class to the most quote unquote advanced or experienced yoga practitioner can come in, and both will still feel like they're both benefiting and capable of, you know, being challenged and also being given space, right?
I love that.
So that's really, really important to me. I don't want anyone to come into my class and feel like, well, this is not accessible or this is really boring. So, happy balance. We had an awesome opportunity, you and I, around Valentine's Day of this year, 2023, to collaborate. Yeah. My passion and your passion joining forces. And from my perspective, that was one of the most fun things that I've done musically ever. I kid you not. Oh, cool. Playing music out for people and having it be like a collaborative, better than the sum of the parts sort of thing. Hi. Hello. Was just really incredible. So from your perspective, what was that experience like? Talk about it a little bit. You want me to be really honest with you? Yeah, please. It was very hard for me, actually. Shockingly, I was like so pumped about this event you and I had. Yeah. And then, you know, had sequence planned. We had a full room. It was like a lot of energy around it. And then when the class actually came, I told my husband this like on the phone on the way home. I was really challenged, in not a bad way, but in a new way, because I kept drawing back to your music and like kind of not losing my place, but I guess it was a little chaotic on my own part. The reception from like the response and feedback from the students was like, let's do this again. And it was so much fun. And I was like, yeah, but you know, leaving, I was like, felt like I delivered. Maybe that's just being hard on myself, but I didn't feel like I delivered my best because I was consistently drawn back to your playing. And it was different, unlike anything. It was different, yeah, because you know, usually I'm playing, you know, hit play on a playlist. I kind of, you know, generally speaking, I play on the playlist. Sometimes I pull an old one, throw it on, and then I'm surprised by what's on the playlist. But so like, you know, can control the volume and all of that jazz. And so I guess being out of control, right, was like a challenge for me. In a way I didn't expect, because like things are thrown into a yoga class all the time when I'm watching my students and we get to a place where I say something and it's not translating right, or you know, the tricky transition that worked well when I practiced it on my own, but now we're in the class and I have to adapt to that. So I've gotten skilled at like adapting on the spot. But I've never had to adapt in that way where I had to control my own like mental chatter and like keep being like, teach the class, stop listening to the music. So, so yeah, I would definitely do it again because I like being challenged. But it was harder for me than I thought it would be, or that I could have ever anticipated it would be. I just thought like, fun event, let's do this, you know. Right. And then, yeah. That's all. I mean, we haven't really spoken about it. I know we haven't. Which is awesome to actually hear that, because that kind of makes me feel like two things. One, you know, I had zero clue because we hadn't spoken, and I'm just listening. I know, it's like, yeah, just wing it, you know, play whatever you want. Like, let's go, exactly, right? And no, well, also like you said, feedback from the students in the class, but also just kind of hearing you, and I mean, I've been in one of your classes before, so not so much to compare it to others, but like, just like it seemed outwardly like, oh, this was perfect, and it probably was very, very good. But I see what you're saying about being hard on yourself and kind of how you felt during it. For example, I had an album listening party that I think went amazing. I released an album for my daughter called Kayla Joy album, right? I saw that. And it went amazing, but like being in that moment, being the center of attention was like, I don't know how I appeared to people. I do know now after watching the video and editing the video for it and stuff. Like I felt like so overwhelmed with the moment, more than in my entire life. So I can totally understand what you mean. Speaking of Kayla Joy album, and speaking of being parents, we're gonna end with you talking about what this beautiful experience of being a mom is like. Well, you know, because that's how we met each other at the coffee shop with my newborn. Yes. Before Kayla was here, right? That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I mean, not to sound cliche, but it is the hardest and the most beautiful, wonderful thing I've ever been lucky enough to experience my whole life. You know, both from the moment, you know, just including being pregnant. I have so many close people in my life who have had fertility issues, unfortunately, and have, you know, been alongside them through that journey, and so I just like thank God every day that that was not our experience, and we were very, very fortunate to have had a you know, a normal pregnancy and labor and delivery, and have, you know, a healthy baby. And then speaking up, and then yeah, but then, you know, you have I was just talking to my family. I have such a supportive family, thank God, because they all are just there all the time. My mom and dad especially watch her every single week and live close to me, which is amazing that she gets to spend that time with them, and and so and my aunt and uncle too, like everyone's just all hands on deck. So it really does take a village. So but what was your question?
Oh, just how is
being a mom.
How is being a mom?
Being a mom.
Like, what does it feel like? So like a year or 2 or 3 from now, we'll talk when Maple, right?
Yeah.
Is, you know, 4 or 5 years old, and you'll be able to like reflect on this moment. That's what I want this to be. Yeah.
So I mean, the first year you don't know until you're in it, and I'm sure you can like breathe to this too, but like you just don't know how fast it just everyone's like, oh, it goes so fast, you blink your eyes and then they're 20. But like I think the first year of development, like they just can't move, you know, they're like this little thing, and they can't even roll over, and then they're, you know, they're of course rolling over and then crawling, and then once they're walking, which Kayla's about to be, right? And Maple's walking and talking a little bit, and then it's like, wow, they're never gonna go back to like crawling.
Wild.
So it really does go insanely, the development part. Like the stages of physical development as a yoga teacher, like of course I'm very interested in that. Like you know, the core development and the muscular development and the structural development and the proprioception, like their awareness of where they are in space is just mind-blowing. So I've just like, you know, because I'm studying the sutras, like I said, and like and teaching them, and I am so I guess my biggest effort is to be present. Like the biggest goal of yoga is to be present in what you're doing while you're doing it, right? If you can learn that in a yoga class, it translates to everything and anything. And so like my biggest effort as a mom is to not prioritize like a laundry list of to-dos over sitting down on the floor and doing nothing with her. You know, playing with her or giving her my undivided attention. I think, like I've said this to my students before, a lot of us say, well, we might even say, well, this deserves my undivided attention. Like this project is really important to me, or this person I haven't seen in a long time is home and I'm gonna meet them for coffee and it deserves my undivided attention, so I'm gonna put my phone away. But my question that I will ask myself a lot is like, what does not deserve my undivided attention? And if I am dividing my attention, it's not really living fully. It's just like living on like, you know, 10 different switches. And it's very stressful to be there. So whenever I feel myself like, you know, trying to juggle or do not juggle, but do multiple things at once, like, you know, Maple's in the house and I'm like, let me try and wash the dishes and make coffee and cook her lunch, and I feel, and then she comes in and like puts herself between me and the sink and goes up. And I feel myself like, you know, kind of getting like, I will take that as a red flag to turn off the sink, pick her up and move into the other room and sit down on the floor and just be like, this is what we're doing. Because there's really nothing more important. When my mind tries to say, but the laundry and but the this, it's like, is that an emergency? You will get it done, and you'll probably get it done after 7 when she's in bed, you know? So, like, I think that's just been such a lesson that she's taught me that I'm forever grateful for, because there's been nothing in my life up until her that I've been so capable of doing that, like giving my undivided attention to, but her, because it's just so important to me. And I feel like if I can continue to do that, then I won't like miss anything, or I won't have any regrets or feel like things are moving like full speed ahead because I've been there for it.
We have no control over how fast something goes, but we can control what we do with the time. Like if we are spending the right amount or as much as we can with our beautiful babies. That's what's important.
Right. I won't ever be like, oh, I wish I did more. Or I wish I watched more of that show. You know, or like I wish I checked my Instagram more, or I wish I was like more on my phone or my computer. I'll never say that.
Right,
but
right.
people do say towards the end of their lives or the midlives, like, oh, I wish I like put that down and just listened to them or just 100%. Saw them or just. And so like I've obviously felt that like growing up, and as many kids do, I feel like that's really something simple, but something also profound and powerful 100%. To do as a parent. And it's like, if I can sustain that, you know, she's only 1.5. If I can keep on that train, then I feel like I'm doing all right. So
if someone wants to join a class of one of yours, what's the best way to do that?
So like I said, I teach a little less now, but I'm teaching still at 3 studios. Teaching here in Somerville, which is where we're walking today. At Yoga Odyssey, I teach here on Wednesdays. And I teach in Bernardsville at a studio called Ride and Reflect. That's where I also do the teacher trainings.
Okay.
And we run them every year. So we have a 200-hour coming up in the fall for people new to yoga. I wish that yoga, it's like so biased, but I really do wish that like yoga trainings were just part of the curriculum at school, because you know you learn about all these other things, but like should you not be learning about your mind and your body, right? Yeah, so like, sure. So I really do like advocate for everyone to do a yoga training at some point in their life, even if they never become a teacher. It doesn't matter. Right. The lessons you learn and the rekindling of like with your body alone, you know, sutras aside, is such a big gift. So, and then the last studio, I'm teaching at a gym in Flemington called Health Quest, which I used to say like, oh, I'm never gonna do that, I'm never gonna teach it a lifetime or whatever. Well, poo-poo to that, because I have had like all new students again, like people are new to yoga, and it's been so wonderful. Awesome. Have had like a bigger audience because it's huge. And you know, you forget, I think when you're in the yoga studio circuit, because people are coming in mostly having some experience and pretty good at yoga. It's hard to teach beginners, but also exciting and fun, and so I really have enjoyed teaching there. Yeah.
Very cool. I didn't ask about being a doula for the very official last question. Yeah. What is that experience like?
Yeah,
you had one.
I had a baby, yeah. I had a doula at our delivery, and who's actually a friend of mine. She used to take my class and work at the front desk at one of the studios I taught, and we'll go this way back to town. And her name was Patty, and she was just, my husband was like, oh, you know, 3's a crowd, we don't need a doula. And then he met her, and he was like, we can't do this without her. Right. So it's just like, she was so helpful, and she never got in his way or like, you know, took over his job, but she helped encourage him to like be useful, not just like a wallflower while I was going through labor. And so as soon as that, you know, experience ended and I got my feet back on the ground and started working again, years ago I'd said I wanted to be a midwife. I don't know where that came from. It was like right out of college. And then I looked into the amount of schooling you have to do. It was a lot. It was like a doctorate almost. And so then I thought, you know, after Patty was there, like the integration of, you know, being a support person, which is a doula at birth, and then also yoga, and how much I know about the body, and how well prepared I felt mentally and physically for birth. Like I feel like that's such a beautiful pairing. So I just I'm almost done with my certification. I have to attend 2 births, but they're both of the couples that I've been working with are both due in July, so really soon.
Wow.
And so then after their births, I will have my certificate. So
good for you.
Yeah, I'm super pumped.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy yourself today?
I did. Thank you, Kevin, for doing this. I always like walking. Yeah.
This is good stuff. Yeah. So what is your name?
My name is Meg.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good. What are you drinking there?
An Ambi coffee kombucha.
Shout out Ambi.
Yeah, shout out to Ambi.
Ambi's awesome. Good. Are you excited or nervous or what?
Neither.
Good. Wait, not
content.
excited?
I'm just content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I feel like excited is another kind of nervous.
Sure. You're just very
content, even keeled. Yeah.
Absolutely. So a question that I love asking people on my platform is,